To week 7. Hope everyone's doing well. This is sort of an overview of what I'm expecting for the lab this week. It's a two-part lab, and one builds on the other. So I wanted to go through, make sure everybody is clear on what I'm expecting. So last week you conducted a 15 to 20 minute interview um, with a teacher, a parent, or even there was even the option for a friend. And you had a theme. You're supposed to have developed a theme related to that interview. This week, you're going to follow that interview after making codes from the transcripts that you typed out last week. From those codes, you're going to develop new interview questions and conduct a more in depth and detailed um, interview. So, one of the things we want to do this week is to get you to kind of go through and understand a little bit about the action research cycle, which involves planning, acting, developing, and reflecting. We're mainly going to focus on this part right here in this class, and then next semester you'll be doing more of sort of the developing and the reflecting and the presenting in the class that follows this. But for this week, we're going to be doing sort of the planning and the acting parts of this sort of picture here. So last week you were asked to sort of identify a topic. You didn't do any sort of literature review, but that would be another part of the sort of the planning stage. You developed a theme, and then you developed interview questions related to that theme, and then you came over here and you collected the data. This week you're going to be analyzing that data that you collected last week in that interview here, and then you're going to kind of go back and you're going to analyze those codes and those themes that you developed from that interview and come up with new questions to follow that data into a sort of a different place and to follow that interview with either another interview with the same individual or a different individual, kind of taking some of those questions and the themes that developed from those questions and the codes that developed from those questions and coming up with new questions. Hopefully that's not too confusing. So we'll go over that here. So this is the readings for this week. And then this interview, this video here is good. The gentleman has a little bit of an accent, so it's somewhat hard to delineate, distinguish between qualitative and quantitative when he's talking about it. But if you listen closely, he does a really great job of talking about qualitative research and some of the different analytical techniques involved in that. And so I think it's helpful to sort of get an idea, a little more about an idea of what qualitative research is and what quantitative research is and the difference between the two. First part of the lab, then you'll go here to do codes and themes from the data that was collected last week. This is similar to something that you did in a couple previous weeks where you sort of went through and coded the transcript and came up with themes related to that. So you've seen this before. This is the interview that I talked about in previous weeks where I was interviewing a student, a colleague of mine in grad school, who was a single mom, who was also a first generation student. And these are some of the codes that I developed. And you've done this in previous weeks where you've developed codes from some transcripts or interview data. Actually, was observations that you did a couple weeks ago. And you also were asked to develop themes and codes that came sort of under those themes. So you're going to do the same thing this week with the interview data that you collected last week. You're going to go through and develop codes and themes from those codes, or overarching themes from those codes. And so I'm asking that you find at least 3. If you can find more, that'd be great. From that, you are going to turn this in, your text, your highlighted text with the codes and your themes. So essentially, you'll turn in something like this from that interview data. Oops, sorry. I'm flipping back and forth a lot here. You're going to do something like this. This is essentially what you'll turn in, is what I'm looking for. And then from this part, you're going to go to the next lab section, which is this lab sort of placement activity, which is a much more in-depth interview that you will sort of take those codes and those themes and you'll develop new questions that follow from that. And this is a 45-minute interview that can be with the same individual or a new individual asking something similar, getting at some of the same ideas or within the same themes that you did last week. And this will be more questions, much more in-depth process. But the goal here is to take your themes from the data collected in week 6 to inform the new questions you'll be asking in week 7. Okay, and then you'll turn that in here. And so that all the information about what you'll essentially will be turning in will be here, and how you'll be graded. It's important that you have a lot of data, and you will be marked down if you don't have a lot of data, because it really sort of is going to be difficult next week as you go through and develop a thematic network where you kind of expand on the themes to sort of connect themes to each other, that you have a lot of data to work with for that. Okay, hopefully that's helpful. You'll turn that in here, and you guys will, everyone will have sort of an idea of what's needed. If there's any questions, please don't hesitate to send me or your instructor a course message.